How's it going, ladies and gentlemen? My name is Ruffle Rowlet, and welcome back to a brand new video, guys. So today we're going to be taking a look at more of these, let's go, like, just information, right? Just some rumors, information, and things coming from both Cerebi, aka, you know, Joe Merrick, as well as PokeExperto, who also owns this account, I guess, called Melker? Yeah, so I've covered this one before. I covered this the other day, where basically he talks about the textures in Pokemon, you know, which order they are in, and how that matches up. Now, there are other tweets here that Joe has also tweeted, which seem to be confirming 100% that the Pokemon that we just saw in Let's Go Pikachu, in Pokemon Go, the brand new Pokemon, the tiny little fella, the one you see right here, this guy, is not Kecleon. Just because it has that tail that is red and whatnot, doesn't mean it's Kecleon. Even when it's shiny, the tail is blue. Same thing with the stripes on Kecleon, they're blue. That doesn't mean it is actually Kecleon. It's its own Pokemon. This thing is its own Pokemon. Now, my theory, alongside another person's theory, was that I think these are going to be akin to Zygard cells. Why? Well, because when you look at the size of this thing, when you look at it in-game in Pokemon Go, it is the tiniest Pokemon ever. It is so small, and there is no way such a small creature would be able to just battle it out on its own and even stand a chance against anything. It's such a small creature. So what would make more sense? Well, what if it actually turned into something like this? Now, of course, this is simply a meme, and somebody made this and posted this on 4chan as far as I understood. Roctillery shared this, but just imagine what it could turn into if it was in the style of a Zygard cell. This is what we could have eventually. Like, just imagine it. Now, of course, I don't know if this is real. I don't know if this is fake. You know, I was looking down here into actually what people said, and somebody said, you know, Steelix was asking who's the original artist, and Roctillery said no idea, nabbed from 4chan, there was no name or signature associated with it. I guess the hunt continues, and not boy becomes not man. Yeah, nice meme there. But you know what I kind of am trying to get to here, guys? I'm trying to say that, like, this thing could turn into something way bigger and actually have the same kind of thing going for it, like what you had with specifically the Zygard cells, right? Them conglomerating together and turning into a bigger creature, maybe potentially a new legendary. That's what I think this thing is going to be like, because it's too small. It's way too small to just be on its own a singular... I mean, it is a singular Pokemon, but it's going to have, like, an evolution based on, like, you know, collecting several of them, I would assume. Something like that is what I would assume. Because there were several of them spawning around you for 30 minutes, you know, temporary amount of time. And it was just these weird little things. And then eventually, I assume once you have enough of them in Pokemon, like, not in Let's Go maybe, but like in Pokemon Gen 8 maybe, that's where I think they will kind of develop this thing more. What I think will happen is, once it's more developed, you will actually maybe have something where, you know, similar to Zygard cells, you gotta collect them and whatnot. And then once you've collected enough of them, you just kind of percentile up, you know, towards 100% and get different, you know, iterations of all these cells combining. So I think that's what we got here, guys. I think we got a similar thing going on here, that essentially we're going to be able to collect a bunch of these, and they work in the same way as Zygard cells. Now, I have, like I said, a bunch of things to go through, so we'll start with this one. For anybody who didn't see my previous video, but Melker here said something interesting. So he said, textures of the following Pokemon sorted by acid number in Ultra Sun and Ultra Moon. 884, Stakataka. 885, Blacephalon. 886, Poipole. 887, Naganadel. 888, Zeraora. 889, Investigating. 8809, Investigating. And 891, New Pokemon Clearly. 891 is the acid number of the Pokemon, not its number of the Pokedex. And we already talked about this the other day, so I won't go more in-depth on that one, but I'll go more in-depth in what's said over here. So right here, you can actually see what, like, Joe Merrick kind of goes in-depth more, and he says here, and this guy just translated tweet 1, the new Pokemon has an acid number of 891, which we are aware of. Charles told us about that. Charles is the person who actually leaked all this stuff. He was the person who leaked the brand new Pokemon before it showed up in Pokemon Go. I keep saying Let's Go Pikachu, Let's Go Eevee every time I'm trying to say Pokemon Go, but you kind of catch the drift. Now, he also said, each new generation recent leaps to the next 100. The new Pokemon does not give that jump. Zeraora is 888. And what is Joe saying here? Well, Joe's just confirming that this brand new Pokemon is guaranteed to be the brand new, whatchamacallit, it's the brand new Pokemon we're supposed to get. It's not a Gen 8 accidental leak. It's actually just the Gen 8, Gen 7 Pokemon that we're getting for Let's Go Pikachu, Let's Go Eevee. And he's counting, in Joe Merrick's head, we are still in Gen 7. That's what he's considering this as. We're still in Gen 7, we haven't moved on to the next thing. So I'm going to just kind of like close this one down and kind of go to where we were a second ago. And he was also arguing here, due to this, the notion that it's Generation 8 Pokemon at the end of its dex is flawed. It still could possibly just be, easily be 808 and part of Generation 7. And then he kind of took it, onto what his argument here, what was written by Melkor here. So he says is, so, I feel that I need to put this 891 stuff to bed. Yes, it could be the national dex number. However, if sharing assets with the main games, it should be noted that many assets are out of order. For example, Zeraora's assets are listed as 888, despite it being 807 in the Pokédex. That's very true. Conversely, Ultra Necrozma is listed as 865. Could this Pokemon be 891? Sure. Is its asset file number indicative of it? No. Etc. This thread should be really interesting to you. And of course, Charles was the first person to post about this. And he said here, let's take more details because, he just went in depth on it. Some more info about Kecleon error. It's labeled as Kecleon in Pokemon Go, but Unity files are tagged with 891. Now, 891 is that important number we keep going over. And here it is. Finally, Joe kind of went into it a bit more in depth here. And we'll probably see it, let's see, I'm trying to find the, right here, okay. Okay, so, just had further confirmation that Go and the main games do share asset namings. Alola forms share same ID number of 61, so 027_61 for Alola and Sandshrew. That pretty much confirms that it's highly unlikely for the new Pokemon to be 891, so let's end that usage. In addition to this, only unique Pokemon species even have unique numerical identifiers with all forms, /megas, having an additional bit. So, that removes the notion that this is a form of Kecleon or Ditto that people have going around. So what he's trying to say here is, this essentially confirms that, what he's trying to point out here, as far as I understood it, is that when you look at the different species of Pokemon and, their unique numerical identifiers, you don't really have, the same thing going on for forms. They don't have that same thing that identifies them. They're separate. That's what he's trying to get across here as far as I can understand. And he also points out here, it's also worth noting that since Gen 6, they start the next generation at a new ID rounded to 100, so 649 is the last Gen 5. And he's talking about the asset files right now. So what he's trying to say is, in generation, let's see here, so the new ID rounded to 100, so 649 is the last Gen 5, then 701 is the first Gen 6. 774 is the last Gen 6, gaps in the middle, then 801 is the first Gen 7. Now, this falls into the list before 900, just saying. So, this is really strange right now. Forgive me if I'm not understanding, but if they share number, then would it be likely to be 891? No, because the asset table lists Zeraora as 888, type Null as 861, Doublade as 745. Etc. I see. Thanks for clearing that up. So what he's trying to get across here, for anybody who's missing what's going on right now, guys, basically, don't look at the Pokedex, number that you have in the Pokedex, right? 807 is Zeraora, for anybody who doesn't know. 808 is the brand new Pokemon we're getting, aka, this little thing. This little shithead, which I love. I don't know, I kind of like it. It's weird, it's stupid, the design looks dumb as shit, but I kind of like it. Now, we're not done there. What he's trying to get across here specifically is that the numbers that was pointed out here by Charles, 891, it makes sense that it then belongs to Gen 7 because it doesn't go above into 900, because once you get to 900, then you're jumping into the next generation, essentially. Now, could this change? Of course, but then again, it's kind of been the same way now since Gen 5, where in the asset files, they kind of do this where they basically round up to 100, so let's say you are 649, right, was the last Gen 5 Pokemon in the Pokedex, right? Then you don't go with 650 in the asset files, right? Sorry, you don't go with the last asset file we were at was 649. You don't just go to 650 with your next game and that being the next Pokemon in that asset file, that texture file and whatnot, right? No, what you do instead is you go from 649 to 701, right? You skip ahead to and round it up to 100 instead, and then you just leave those open spots in between as blanks. I know that this is a thing they do, as I have messed around with files when it comes to Ultra Sun and Moon. There are a lot of dummy files. You will literally, every time you work with these textures, there are a lot of dummy files that are left in between, and they don't really take up a lot of spots, so they always leave them there. Just dummy files just there kind of in between that kind of make up a lot of space. Now, are they organized properly and whatnot? I mean, it really depends on how you look at it. Like, the dummy files I'm referring to could be different from what he's referring to here, but my point is, there are always dummy files in between. So for anybody trying to argue that, okay, well, he's saying that, you know, right over here, where were we? Melkor, right? He was saying that it was, you know, 888 was Zeraora in the texture assets and whatnot, the asset, you know, folder or whatever. But then you had 889 and then 890, and those had nothing in them. Shouldn't there be 891, you know, new Pokemon? Well, like I said, there can be gaps. And like he pointed out here, like Joe pointed out, there can be gaps in these areas where they specifically don't have anything else included. Why? Well, because sometimes these are dummy files. They're just there to, you know, they're just, like, they're useless files. They have nothing in them. And they're just files you skip over. And what this means is that this Pokemon, if it's 891, as was said by Charles here, if it's 891, then that means that this Pokemon still belongs to Gen 7, which means it is the brand new Pokemon we're getting this year. As Joe said, I wanted to go against him here. I wanted to think differently and say that, hey, it's still potentially a Gen 8 Pokemon. Well, guess what? It's a Gen 7 Pokemon, but I still believe that it's a Pokemon that's going to connect into the next story in Gen 8. I think it's still going to be one of those Pokemon that, yes, it's a Gen 7 Pokemon. Sure, I'm on board with you there, but it's still going to have a connection to next year's game in one way or another. Like some sort of artificial, you know, kind of connection in one way or another. Maybe it's going to be present in the story, or one way or another it's going to be there, you know, in the actual game. So yeah, guys, now, like I said earlier, what do I think this brand new Pokemon is? Well, I don't think it's Kecleon, and as we already pointed out, and this is why I was bringing this up mostly, is that he's trying to basically say right here, by pointing out that, you know, only unique Pokemon species even have unique numerical identifiers, with all forms/megas having an additional bit, so that removes any notion this is a form of Kecleon or Ditto that people have going around. Exactly, because if this was a kind of version of Ditto or Kecleon, whatever it may be, it would be separate from, like, the end of the Pokedex. It wouldn't be at the end of the Pokedex. It would be closer to where Kecleon is, and it would be associated more with that, rather than just being its own little file on the sideline. Now, why did it end up being in the game on Kecleon's Pokedex entry, or Pokedex number in the Pokemon Go game? And also, why does it look so much like Ditto, like the bottom part of it? Why does it look like a gray Ditto? And I know a lot of people are going to be like, oh, people just complain about the designs, oh, you call everything the same as this other thing, right? No, but like, seriously though, the body does look like Ditto. You can't deny that. It's uncanny. It's just a gray Ditto, but smaller actually, if anything. And even if you see like the actual file, like the actual 3D model for it, it looks just like Ditto. You actually layer over a picture of Ditto on this thing, and the body looks identical, because it seems like at least the body was based on the same kind of concept. But like I said, I don't think it's Kecleon, and based on what, you know, Joe said here, it definitely is not. It definitely is not a Gen 8 Pokemon, aka a brand new Pokemon, or the 891st Pokemon in the next Pokedex. No, it's a Gen 7 Pokemon. It does not have a connection to Kecleon in the way you think about it, or a connection to Ditto. I think what's going on here is, the reason why they connected it to Kecleon in its Pokedex entry, and then why it turned into Ditto, was to kind of tell us that, guys, this Pokemon is going to be different. It's going to have the ability to turn to other creatures, the same way Kecleon can, you know, hide its presence, etc., go invisible, whatever you want to call it, right, or turn into things, you know what I mean, and the same way Ditto can turn into other Pokemon. They're trying to tell us here, I think this way, but that, like, this is a Pokemon that takes the attributes of these two other Pokemon, hence why we have a connection between them. And what I think is going to end up happening at the end of the day is that in the next game, in Gen 8, you're going to be able to collect several parts of this Pokemon, or several of them, and turn it into something like this. Straight up, I would love if this was a real thing, and this ends up happening. Dude, this would be badass. Of course, a little bit weird for a Pokemon game, but I take it, man. I'd take it. Cute little, weird little thing would turn into a badass mon. I mean, I'd take it any day, dude. I mean, it'd be cool if it looked like more like a, I don't know, like a dragon type thing. Dragon, not dragon type, but like dragon styled thing. But hey, I'll take anything, man, at this point. So yeah, guys, I don't know. What do you think about this? What are your thoughts? Let me know in the comment section down below. And thank you so much for watching, guys. I'll see you all the next time. Have a great day, and bye-bye, ladies and gentlemen.